Hey teacher friends, in this video I'm going to share 10 pieces of advice for going back to school after maternity leave. I don't mean going back to school as a student, I mean as a teacher. I'm an experienced teacher, but I'm a first-time mom. I just wrapped up my first year of teaching as a mom, and I had a relatively easy year, and I want to share with you some of the things I did and learned and figured out in order to make my year successful and make it so I'm like okay with going back to work in the fall. Now, of course, I can't tell you how to not miss your kid because that's the hard part. I have no advice for that. That's the hard part, is missing the baby snuggles. But there's practical stuff, so let's get to that. Before we get to anything else, just in case we haven't met yet, my name's Natalie Priester. I make videos for teachers. Most of them focus on relationships, books, lots of teacher books, blended learning, and I recently started a teacher mom blog. So if you like any of that stuff, feel free to check it out. But on topic with this back to school stuff, I had my daughter in March, and I was actually able to stay home with her for 5 months. Now, this is not normal in teaching in California, but I took all of my sick days I had accumulated in all of my years teaching, and I bundled them all up. By the way, I've moved districts. This is my 3rd district. Did you know you can take your sick days with you? So I pulled all my sick days, and then it happened to line up with summer break. So I got 5 months at home with her, and then I went back. Just also to let you know, I'm a middle school teacher, and my commute is 20 minutes both way to work. I took my tips and I broke them down into kind of like 3 sections. The first one's the actual like nitty-gritty being at work stuff and a little more teacher stuff. Then I talk about keeping the family functioning, because that's one part that was a little harder, honestly. And lastly, I talk about self-care. Alrighty, first tip, ask for help. Your first year as a mom is not the time to be that rock star, amazing, do-it-all, super mom, teacher, everything else. Like, just get that out of your head. Stay away from Pinterest, stay away from Instagram. You're not trying to be perfect. You're not trying to be a rock star. You're just trying to be a good mom this year. And in order to be a good mom, if you are working, you should ask for help. Well, let me say that a little, let me be more honest with you. I just don't mean ask for help. I mean pay for help. Okay? Now, I know we don't make a lot of money, teachers, but hear me out on this one. First of all, childcare, that's already like, you already know that's coming. I can't give you the best advice on that. We did family for a while. We did daycare for a very short while, but this is not a good thing. See, I figured this out. I guess I can share a little. The daycare lady was letting my daughter sleep all day. Then guess what happened for me? She was awake all night. Scratch that. Then we found another child care provider who worked as a perfect fit for my family, but I had to be flexible and find something that would match. And honestly, the decision we made ended up costing a little bit more, but my daughter is happy when I leave. She is happy to see me. She's learning all the time, so that paying was worth it. But this isn't all about childcare. What I really mean is to pay for help around the house. Don't freak out. Don't think I'm bougie. Don't think I'm too fancy. And to be honest with you, if you ask around your school and ask a lot of teachers, especially people who've been around a while, you know how we get paid a little more because we've been around a little bit longer, a lot of teachers have housekeepers. It's like a secret. Super moms don't want to admit it because they want to be like, oh, I do everything. No, that's crap. They get help. And so, like, when you're working all the time, you want to come home and spend all the time in the world with your kid and not be doing things like cleaning the toilets or doing endless laundry. And I mean, if you do that, then you're amazing, you're a rock star. But our family decided to save some pennies here and there and cut back on things like trips to Target, new clothes, and eating out. And we were able to hire a housekeeper. I say housekeeper because they're more flexible than a cleaning service. So I found a housekeeper to come, and she will do the deep cleaning, like the mopping, the toilets, help me with the laundry, whatever I need help with. I actually got that help, and it made my life way easier. If there are any other services you can afford with your family to get help with, I highly recommend you do it. Also, I didn't say this earlier, but of course my boyfriend works too. So we're actually both teachers. So there's no one here all day to do the chores. So, but we both make the money. So we pay a little bit of that money to get somebody to help us. Seriously, guys, ask around. It's like a secret of moms that nobody wants to admit. Okay, number 2, simplify the way you eat. Stay away from Pinterest. Do not make fancy homemade things. Don't go all crazy. I have a tendency to do this because I'm like a high maintenance eater. I don't eat a ton of stuff, so my diet's very limited. One of the things I don't eat is processed food. So I can't just like go grab a thing of mac and cheese and heat it up because I don't eat the gluten, I don't eat the processed. Well, maybe some fancy like healthy ones, but anyways, I don't do that. So what I have figured out to do instead is to make it very, very simple. We make big dinners at our house, like one big meal with something that will intentionally carry over to be leftovers for lunch the next day. Now, we tried meal prepping in the fall. That was a giant bust because it made a ton of dishes. Food was going to waste. We had to buy new containers to store it. And like taking the whole time to cook was time away from our daughter. And that, like, I didn't want to spend my Sunday bulk time meal prepping. That's ridiculous. So instead, we do the big meal, take the leftovers, take it for lunch. It totally works. What I like to do is set up my food in a way that's kind of like a waterfall. So hear me out. We make a base like rice or quinoa or polenta, and then each night we kind of make something that can add on top of it so our leftovers will mix and match. This could work like if you did Mexican food for the week, Mexican leftovers all go together. But if you do tacos one night and pizza the next night, your leftovers don't match. So do things that will complement each other. Also on the simplification plan, I eat the same thing for breakfast every single day. I just do a quick oatmeal, good to go. I always have the same snacks in my lunch at work. Just simplify, 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 no Pinterest. Number 3, take advantage of online delivery services. I figured this out when I was home with the baby right from the start. I needed things like toiletries, and I was not gonna be able to go to Target when she was itty bitty. I had a C-section and that just was not happening. But I figured out how to use things like Amazon, which we all kind of use, but also find a delivery service for toiletries. I use Target's delivery service. I also use Jet. They had a little bit better prices on actual cosmetics and things. Use anything you can to get things delivered to you. Since then, a company called Instacart has started working in our community, which means that I pay for a shopper to go to my local grocery store with my list. She texts me as she goes and then brings the groceries to my house. I still use this even though it's summer, just on weeks when I don't have time to go run and get things like if company's coming. But those, paying the little tiny bit of a service fee is totally worth your time because it is really hard to get the baby packed up in the car, shop with the baby, get home with the baby, manage it between naps and meals, just get things delivered. I don't have a solution for all those freaking boxes though, my God. Somebody want to start a company for that? I have too many cardboard boxes all the time. Tip number 4, protect your sick days. So I don't know how all districts work and all states work, but here we have to use up all of our sick days before maternity leave even starts. And so what happens is when you go back to work, you have 0 sick days. My teacher mom friends and I complain about this all the time. It stinks. So when you go back to work, it's going to be really hard to take off. So when I say protect your sick days, I mean things like make your appointments way in advance so you can get those late afternoon appointments because everybody wants them. Also schedule things during your breaks, like spring break or Thanksgiving break. And the baby's going to need to go to the doctor also. So try to schedule your baby's appointments way in advance so you have those sick days. Not because you're probably really going to get sick, but because, man, when the baby's sick, you'll really want to be home with the baby. My daughter's first cold didn't happen until after I started working. Between my boyfriend and I, we took that whole week off with her. She just needed to sit and rest in our arms. Also, if your kid goes to a child care facility, you're going to have to take off if your kid has a fever. So save those days. If you can book things outside of school, totally do it because you're gonna blow through them. I blew through all mine this year and I tried really hard to schedule around stuff and my daughter rarely got sick, but I still blew through them. Number 5, advocate early for your pumping needs. If you're planning to breastfeed, this is probably why you're watching this video. That was one of my biggest stressors with going back to work. I was like, oh my God, how am I gonna do this? I watched documentaries, I read books. By the way, I recommend Work, Pump, Repeat. I'll put the link in the bio. But plan early to figure out the pumping situation. Now, I don't just mean how the pumps work because there's stuff on that, but I mean at your actual site. In California, this might even be the whole country, the school has to give you a designated pumping space. Find an administrator who is your ally and work with that administrator. I was really lucky that my principal is a grandma and she was on it. She'd also kind of already worked through the lactation space with another staff member, so we had that set up. I ended up using a workroom and we put the little slider lock on it. That's important because a lot of people have keys and will just fly into rooms and not read signs, especially if they're busy. It also helped to have a teacher mom friend who I could kind of talk to as we navigated the space. Now, I said navigated because there was a little bit of a conflict with the lactation room and people not knowing that's what it is. It's a middle school. You can't write lactation room across the door, right? The kids will go bonkers. And people who don't have kids, they just don't get it. And if you ever want to talk with me in person or have a nice chat, I will tell you that full story and about how, yeah, it was a rough battle. But here's the good news. My administrator, who was my ally, was on my side through that thing, and we navigated it, and it was totally easy and totally fine. Now, I also can't tell you how to not forget your milk at work. Done that, luckily in a fridge. Or how not to forget your pump or your supplies. Tip, buy extras of everything. In fact, my friend Krista from Happily in the Middle has a video where she talks about how to pack your pump bag as a teacher. I'll put her link down below. But friends, and learn about it, but get that admin on your side. One more really important thing is, if you go to conferences a lot, like I do, plan the pumping in advance for that. I learned, surprisingly, that most conferences have a lactation space set aside. I called ahead to one. The lead on it was a guy who felt so awkward. I was like, excuse me, do you have I need to like pump. Do you have a lactation room? And he was like, oh yeah, we have a space. They had actually reserved an extra place at the hotel where the conference was located for nursing moms. They had like little cubicles and a fridge and everything set up, and I ended up like chatting up. I saw like the nursing bags of the moms were like, oh, you're pumping too. There were like 6 of us pumping at this conference with just a few teachers. So it wasn't awkward at all. It's much better than like sneaking and pumping in your car or finding a bathroom or something embarrassingly awkward. Just ask. More people know about it than you think. I think before I had kids, I had no idea that this was even a thing that admin considered, but they do. Number 6, simplify your planning and grading. Now is not the time to whip up the most innovative, giant project-based learning thing ever. Don't totally change your whole curriculum. Don't change all the books you're reading. Just chill this year. I'm giving you permission to just be a chill teacher. Quit trying to be a rock star. This year, you need to be a rock star mom, because your students all have their parents to take care of them. Or if you're like me and taught kids who didn't have parents around, because I taught foster youth, their staff let somebody else pick up the weight to take care of those kids, because you need to focus on your kid. And guess what? If you just kind of use your textbook materials and you do the basic level of teaching for a year, your kids are totally still going to learn. I did it this year. I was a little bit more on like textbook dependent than I normally am, and my kids learned just fine. Now, a few times I tried to go all innovative and do things where I had to like prep materials in advance every week. It didn't work. Not because like my lesson was bad, but because I was rushed because I didn't have the time at home to prep for it, or I was trying to prep like in the dark as the baby's sleeping, or shove little windows in at school during my prep time because I didn't want to work on it at home. And then the worst part was, then I was a bad teacher because I was a jerk to my kids because I was stressed out or too tired. So just look around, find something, make it easy, use rubrics for everything. Don't spend all day leaving comments on the kids' work that they're not going to read. Like, stop it. Quit being an overachiever, okay? Oh, if you want to use comments though, I did use a tool called Kaizena. I'll put a link to that down below too. It's in Google Docs, and you can record a voice comment on the kid's doc. That was way faster. And honestly, I recorded a bunch of those in a dark room with my laptop, with my daughter sleeping next to me, because I did need to give feedback on some essays my kids did. So chill out, relax. Oh, and don't you dare spend all your time making your room look pretty while your kid is at home wanting to get love from you, okay? Knock it off. Number 7, just say no. Now, If you're an experienced teacher, you probably already know this. People are gonna come up to you all the time and be like, can you do this? Can you be on this committee? Can you supervise this club? Can you volunteer for this? Can you come help out at this event after school? Can you go write up a letter for this? Can you make me a flyer? We get asked that stuff all the time. Those of us who are experienced and a little bit more savvy, we know how to say no. I'm mostly talking to you young teachers and to you overachievers. Do you know what happens? Admin and leaders on site, they come to you, they make you feel like you're the most important person ever. You're the only person that can do the job. You're so special, you have to be on this committee. And then you're like, oh, I'm so great. Man, I have to be on this committee. No, it's crap. They just need a body to go in there. I mean, you might be good and you might be great, but like in reality, they have to put a person in each spot and they're asking you to do it. And look around. Chances are you're not at a really, really small site. I worked at a small site. There were 9 teachers total, and there were still people who could have pulled way more weight when they did. I pulled a ton of weight then, but I was single and not a mom. And so I could pull the extra weight. Maybe that's you now. But if you're going to be a mom, it's time to change that role a little bit, and you need to step back, let somebody else do the duties, say no. When I'm asked, like someone comes up to me, and I've had admin come up to me and they're like, they think that I'm gonna fall for this too. They're like, oh, you're so great. We really need you to do this thing for me. I flat out looked at an AP and I was like, does it take time after school? He said, yes. I said, nope. I've also gotten savvy and I'm like, does it take extra time? You gonna pay me? How much you gonna pay me? Okay, maybe I'll do it. Now, this doesn't mean I don't care about the kids, but I do care about the kids and I work really hard, but my focus is my kids in my own room and my daughter before taking care of things school-wide. There are people who are paid more money than you to take care of things school-wide. Let them do it. Stick to that. Like, is this gonna take time after school? And then you decide, is that worth it? Are they going to pay you enough? Because it would stink if you volunteered for something and then you're miserable the whole time because you just want to be home with your kid. In fact, right the last week of school, I had to do a mandated thing after school. I was sitting at a play. My daughter got her first really high fever, like that day. You know how hard it was to sit there and I couldn't leave because it was like I had to do it because it's part of my contract while she was at home burning up with daddy and we were freaking out about what medicine to give her? Yeah. Say no. Do the bare minimum. You can be a rock star later. Trust me, just relax. Oh, another thing. I also want to talk about conferences. I have been telling my administrators that I'm not going to things that are going to make me stay a night away from my daughter. I'm telling that to everybody I work with. I have made it my thing to not spend a night away from her. You may have your own boundaries with that, but conferences are a thing that like some people make you feel like you have to go to those. You don't. Check with your union, but they can't force you to go to a conference. That's outside of your school day. I had to go to a conference this year. It was kind of local. I commuted. I've also done things like book flights morning of, night of, so I could be home for my daughter. My rule is that I'm going to stay with her for the evening. I've also been able to take her with me to conferences with family or with my boyfriend with us so we could stay with her in the hotel. But that's a line that I drew, and I think once I established that line, it was easier to follow through than to deal with the stress of trying to do everything and make it all happen. Number 8, set aside time to exercise and take care of your body. When I was home with Nuari for the first 5 months, it was so easy. I could just throw her in the stroller and walk around the neighborhood early in the morning. It was so chill. I could do yoga. Now this was before she was mobile. I could just do yoga, leave her sitting on the floor, do yoga while she was taking a nap. It was easy. But then it got really hard when school started and I was still really working on getting my body back to pre-baby. I don't care if you think that's superficial. It was important to me. I like to feel healthy and strong and I needed my physique and my strength and my confidence to go back to where it was. Also, I wanted some of my clothes to fit because that was annoying. Anyways, once I started working, I actually worked with people like Nuari's childcare and my boyfriend to say, hey, I need to go to yoga on these 2 days. You guys, it's really important for you to take her on these 2 days. And I said, it's okay that I'm away from her because that makes me healthier and saner, and then I'm a good mom overall and in general. Also after work, when it's cool enough, I live somewhere where it's really hot, I throw her in the stroller and we go for walks around the neighborhood and we get our time together then, or we'll go to the park so we're still bonding. I just have to schedule it or else I tend to not do it. Number 9, get enough sleep. So This is one thing that I was really, really worried about because it's what everybody talks about. Like, oh, you don't get enough sleep, the baby was up all night, and you hear all of these crazy, crazy stories. And that wasn't so much my problem. Like, I was okay with waking up and feeding her and going back to sleep. That wasn't the problem. This is where I hit my glitch. We would like finish up dinner, and then I would take her up, do her bedtime routine, and put her to bed. Then I would come back downstairs to do chores, like wash the dishes, feed the dogs. I would have to go in and like wash my face, brush my teeth myself, get in my pajamas, and do all of these things. It didn't work. My boyfriend's actually the one who had the solution to this. He said, why don't you just go to bed when she does? So my solution is we have dinner, clean up, maybe start dinner a little earlier, get everything cleaned up, the dogs fed and everything. Then I go upstairs and I lock in upstairs. So when she takes a bath, I wash my face. Now she's older, I'll even jump in the bath with her, so that's done for me. I get in my pajamas, I take my laptop, my books, everything in the room for me, a glass of water, and then I do her like reading her book, we do our journal, I sing her to bed, she goes to sleep, and then I stay in the room with her. It's easier than the frantic like baby monitor running back and forth. That part's stressful, but what's even worse is on those nights where she kept waking up, I wasn't getting everything done, and then I was stressing out. So it's almost like the things I say are a little bit optional, because there were some times where she just needed to sit in my arms for the evening in order to go to sleep. I don't do that cry it out thing. That's a whole, I will have lots of face-to-face conversations with people about that. No cry it out crap around here. Anyways, sometimes I would just have to sleep with her, but it took away that stress of like, I have to leave the room to go get everything else done. While I'm on the controversial thing, I'm going to give you a secret that I've learned from my teacher mom friends, the breastfeeding ones. They also don't talk about this. So co-sleeping is like a controversial thing, right? And there's levels of it, like in the bed, in the room, everything else. Pediatricians right now say at least keep the baby in the room. So here's the tip though. If you're a breastfeeding mom, co-sleeping makes your life way easier, especially if you just feed the baby in the bed. Because if you get up, and I did this, get the baby up, walk across the room, sit in the chair, feed the baby, you know what happens? You fall back asleep. And that's actually way more dangerous than in the bed, because you can drop the baby. Also, I kept getting like weird kinks in my neck. It was horrible, and then I'd wake up all angry. It's way easier just to feed the baby in the bed. Little tiny note on co-sleeping. Now you can research this all you want. It's actually safe if you are not drinking, smoking, obese, or sleeping on a couch or somewhere. So it was fine. Everything was fine. But that's another secret teacher mom thing that I will tell you about. Ask people. More people do it than they say. Number 10, find teacher mom friends at your school. If no one's pregnant, find somebody who just had a baby. If somebody's wife just had a baby, become her friend too. It's so much easier. I just relocated to my area, I would say, what was it, just a few months before I got pregnant. So like, and I don't have any family or anybody up here. So that part was really hard for me. I mean, I could call my parents and my sister, but it was just easier to make teacher mom friends. I was lucky that there was I made friends with somebody who had just had a kid, and then she actually got pregnant again, and we figured out that there's like this like momming hour. And I noticed other people too, including a coworker's wife, like we're all on Instagram at the same time because we're like finishing putting the babies to sleep in our arms. And so we would just check in and talk, and we could say like, oh, the baby did this, I have a question about this, oh my god, your baby's so cute, or like, I'm so tired. Also, having the teacher mom friend at work made it easier on days when I was like, oh my god, I missed the kid, or if the kid was sick, and we could like just kind of give each other support throughout the day, or like, oh my god, I forgot this. Sometimes she would even have extra pump parts, which was nice. It just made it feel like I wasn't alone, because like you can't talk about it with your students, obviously, and if you have paras or other people around, most of my people who are around me had their kids a long time ago. But it's nice to be friends with someone who's right there with you in like the really rough parts. Now, I've heard of people saying like, oh, Facebook groups, there's a lot of support groups, but there's something else when you actually see the person regularly and you have more in common with them, and face-to-face things are just a better way to feel supported as you are going through this awesome first year. Well, it's summer now. If you are expecting, congratulations. I'm excited for you. If you're thinking about having a baby and teaching, you can totally do both. I didn't think I could, and I totally could. In fact, I thought I wouldn't be a good teacher if I became a parent, but actually being a parent has made me a better teacher, I think. If you are someone who has kids and you know more tips, leave them in the comments below. If you are in education and you aren't a parent, here's my advice for you. Be nice. The only people who are mean to me about the mom stuff were the people who don't have kids. So have a little patience there, guys. It is kind of hard to be a mom and a teacher. Okay, it's now time for our question of the day. Are you a parent? How old are your kids? Did you get maternity leave? Any of that stuff, leave it below, or any tips, leave it down there. Just check in, like telling me like, hey, I'm a teacher mom too, so I don't feel so alone. Also, all the fun YouTube-y stuff, if you liked this video, give it a like. If you want to see more videos like this, remember I have like book stuff, teacher mom vlogs, all that stuff. Hit subscribe, hit the bell so you don't miss anything. If you super loved this video, please share it with your teacher friends using the social media buttons. Speaking of friends, we should be friends. I'm the most active on my Instagram account. All my links are down below. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you the next time. Bye.